Imagining a world in which the polls are closed, it's the election night, you're winning, the pattern is showing that you're winning, maybe even the networks are calling it for you at that point, and Donald Trump sends in federal agents to seize the ballots in Georgia.
Donald Trump is a failed president, and his support is collapsing before his very eyes. He's seeing the same polls I'm seeing. And as you move across Georgia, you're hearing it from the people of Georgia. He came to my state, said that he would lower people's costs on day one. We're now nearly 2 years into his presidency, and people are struggling. And he's clearly much more focused on his own power than making people's lives better.
What if a presidential election was called and then the ballots were suddenly seized? That shocking scenario is now being discussed on national television. And now, Senator Raphael Warnock is accusing Donald Trump of being more focused on power than helping struggling Americans. Here's what happened.
Lawrence, thank you for having me. And tonight I heard a failed president desperately casting about for excuses to meddle in the upcoming election if he can, or to discredit the result when he loses decisively, as I expect he will. I heard a president who, as his war spirals and as prices keep climbing for families across the country, is, as always, focused on his personal grievances, focused on his personal shame and humiliation, and above all, focused on his personal fear of the accountability that will come when we win this fall. But this is important, folks, and I want you to hear me out when I say this, because I also heard a president clearly signaling his intent to attack these elections and to undermine voting rights. And you know it's going to be right here in Georgia, the critical battleground state. Look, we have an opportunity this fall to deal a rebuke so decisive that no president will attempt abuses and corruption like this for centuries. That will be a great service to our republic. But he is signaling his plans to come right here to Georgia, attack the election and undermine voting rights. And I'm asking folks to take action right now. Grab your phone, grab your laptop, go to electjon.com, answer the president tonight overwhelmingly. Do this thing, chip in, join our team, help us get out the vote and protect voting rights.
You told reporters today at the Capitol, reminded everyone, all of us, about Donald Trump's criminal phone call to the Secretary of State of Georgia asking for more votes. And you told us we should play that, which we did in this hour. It's how we began our coverage tonight, was to hear Donald Trump's voice once again committing that federal and state election crime of calling and saying to the Republican Georgia Secretary of State, I just want to find 11,780 votes. And every time you hear it, you're hearing the person who tried for the biggest cheating and interference in presidential elections in history. And there he was trying to preach against tonight. And he used this phrase, cheating and interference.
Well, that's right. He tried to steal the presidency when he lost it the first time. And that's why we can't be complacent. That's why we cannot dismiss this threat to voting rights. He's making his intentions very clear. And Lawrence, it's not enough just to be alert to it. We have to take action right now. If the effect of the president's speech is that everybody tuned into this broadcast right now goes to electjon.com and helps empower my team to do what we need to do to win in Georgia, then we're taking effective action to fight back.
Jim Himes offered the scenario in your particular election earlier in this program tonight, that the vote, he's imagining a world in which the polls are closed, it's the election night, you're winning, the pattern is showing that you're winning, maybe even the networks are calling it for you at that point, and Donald Trump sends in federal agents to seize the ballots in Georgia.
Donald Trump didn't even have to be in the studio to become the center of the entire conversation. What started as a routine interview quickly turned into a warning about the future of American elections, as Senator Raphael Warnock accused Trump of doing something Democrats have feared for years, preparing the ground to challenge election results before a single vote is cast. According to Warnock, Trump's latest message wasn't really about inflation, the economy, or foreign policy. Instead, he argued that Trump remains focused on the same issue that has dominated American politics since 2020, the legitimacy of elections. And that's when the discussion turned to the one topic that still refuses to disappear, the Georgia phone call. Years later, that call continues to divide the country. Critics see it as evidence of election interference. Supporters see it as a president demanding answers about a system he didn't trust. But regardless of which side you're on, the fact that America is still arguing about that phone call tells you everything you need to know about how deep these political divisions have become. Warnock's bigger concern wasn't just what happened in 2020, it was what could happen next. His warning was clear. If voters lose confidence in election results, the damage goes far beyond one candidate or one campaign. Trust is the foundation of every democratic system, and once that trust starts to crack, every election becomes a new political battlefield. That's what made this interview important. Because beneath all the accusations and political attacks was a much larger question. Is America still debating the last election or already heading toward another fight over the next one?
Joining me now is Georgia Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock. Senator, thank you for being here with me tonight.
Great to be with you.
Let me start by asking you, if you watched the speech, what you thought of the speech. What's your reaction?
I saw a pretty desperate man talking tonight. Donald Trump is a failed president, and his support is collapsing before his very eyes. He's seeing the same polls I'm seeing. And as you move across Georgia, you're hearing it from the people of Georgia. He came to my state, said that he would lower people's costs on day one. We're now nearly 2 years into his presidency, and people are struggling. And he's clearly much more focused on his own power than making people's lives better. I spoke yesterday with the leader of one of our food banks, and he's saying he's seeing unprecedented numbers of people, working people, who are in line getting food for their families. Donald Trump doubled the premiums of some 1.2 million Georgians who are trying to afford health care. And so Georgians are getting poorer and poorer, sicker and sicker. And because of his corruption and self-dealing, he and his family are getting richer and richer. And we intend to hold him accountable come November.
I know one of the ways I think about your jobs is that you're holding people's hands and guiding people, both when you're preaching and also as a senator, somebody representing the constituents and the people of Georgia. And I know Trump's address came on the eve of the anniversary of Congressman John Lewis's death, which I know you are certainly tracking. But for people watching, the civil rights icon passed away 6 years ago tomorrow, which is hard to believe. And you were at a roundtable today with faith leaders and political figures about who are talking about Congressman Lewis's legacy. One of the things you pointed out, which really has stuck with me, is that the Trump administration, and the speech tonight is a really good example of this, is trying to weaponize despair. I thought that was such an apt description. Tell me what we do about that.
Well, I mean, they're doing a lot of things, right? But they are trying to convince us that they've already won. They're literally flooding the zone, as we've heard them say. They're weaponizing despair with the hope that people won't stand up. And so I'm calling on people. This is a moral moment in America. And our children and our grandchildren are going to ask us, what were we doing when the president of the United States was behaving as an arsonist, literally setting fire to our democracy? Did we stand up? Did we raise our voices? I had the honor of being John Lewis's pastor. I presided over his funeral. Sometimes we look at those wins and we talk as if those civil rights wins were inevitable. They were quite improbable. I think often about him crossing that bridge with brute force under the color of law. On the other side of that bridge, he kept walking. He kept pushing. And so that's what we've got to do in this moment. In a smart and sophisticated way, we've got to keep walking, keep showing up. And I think, Georgia saved the country in 2021. Donald Trump can't get over it. His feelings are deeply hurt, even though he won in 2024. And come November, the American people are going to hold him accountable, and his enablers in Congress are going to hold him accountable again.
To that point, I mean, it's like he sends out, Trump, that is an evil bat signal, I'm going to call it, where he starts to project things, and then you hear it from people like Senator Tommy Tuberville, who told Newsmax today that we probably have 4 or 5 senators that didn't legally win. They shouldn't be here. It is, how do we break the fever of that? Do we ignore it? Do we fact check it? How do we handle something as absurd as that?
Tommy Tuberville ought to be ashamed of himself. You know, this is really embarrassing to watch. And this is somebody with whom I've worked when I could to get some things done for Georgia and Alabama. But, you know, as equally, you know.
Donald Trump didn't even have to leave the stage before Senator Raphael Warnock delivered one of the sharpest political responses of the year. After Trump's speech, Warnock painted a picture of a president he believes is becoming increasingly desperate. He argued that Trump is watching political support slip away while Americans continue struggling with rising costs, healthcare expenses, and economic uncertainty. According to Warnock, Trump promised to improve people's lives, but many families are still feeling financial pressure nearly 2 years into his presidency. What makes this criticism significant is that Warnock wasn't just attacking Trump's policies. He was questioning Trump's priorities. He pointed to reports of growing food bank demand and claimed that while ordinary Americans are struggling, Trump and those around him continue to benefit politically and financially. But the most important part of the interview came when Warnock shifted from economics to democracy. Speaking on the eve of the anniversary of civil rights icon John Lewis's death, Warnock accused the Trump movement of trying to weaponize despair. His argument was that some political leaders want Americans to believe the outcome is already decided, creating frustration and hopelessness that discourages people from participating in the democratic process. Warnock's warning became even stronger when he described this moment as a test for the country. Referencing John Lewis's fight for voting rights, he argued that progress has never been inevitable, and that democracy only survives when citizens continue showing up, speaking out, and remaining engaged. The most explosive accusation came when Warnock suggested that Trump is behaving like an arsonist of democracy, claiming that he is helping create distrust in institutions and election systems. He also argued that Trump still has not moved past Georgia's role in the 2020 election and predicted that voters would once again hold him accountable in November. The conversation then turned to Senator Tommy Tuberville's comments questioning the legitimacy of some elected senators. Warnock strongly rejected those claims, arguing that repeated attacks on election credibility can damage public trust and further divide the country. And that's really the heart of this debate. This interview wasn't just about Donald Trump. It was about 2 competing visions of America, one side warning that democracy is under threat, and the other arguing that institutions deserve more scrutiny. Ultimately, voters will decide which argument they believe when they head to the polls. Now the question is, was Warnock exposing a real threat to democracy, or was this simply another heated political attack on Donald Trump? Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest political coverage.